Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and today we're going to do something very different because for the past few days I've been living in a bit of a nostalgia trip. I've been playing Warhammer Online. Yes, the MMO which was released a long time ago, right about the time of Wrath of the Lich King for World of Warcraft, that was based in the Warhammer Fantasy setting. Unfortunately, when the game was run officially, it didn't survive that long because it was promised to be the WoW killer, and unfortunately when you say you're a WoW killer, you end up dying before them. This game was still very much beloved, and thankfully it still lives on in the hearts of a private server. Now, I know you might be saying, oh no, private servers, but there are no microtransactions. It's run in a vanilla aspect with some inclusion of some brand new content, which is just flavor, finishing off some former content that the developers of the official server never got to finish, and everything works as intended, meaning that you can pick all your usual classes. You've got 4 per different race with 3 races per side. So on the side of Order, you have the Dwarfs, the Empire, and the High Elves, and for the side of Destruction, you've got the Dark Elves, Chaos, and Greenskins. The classes themselves are centered around each of the specific races, so you don't have a generic warrior and paladin class. Instead, you have a rune priest as a dwarf healer, or a chaos chosen as your chaos warrior slash tank. It's your tanky class. Everything is done in a very lore-friendly aspect, and this is definitely something that you're going to want to get into if you love old-school Warhammer Fantasy lore. This means that you can't play a male witch elf, for example, or a female slayer. There's actually quite a few options, and the classes themselves are very distinct, meaning that you can have a lot of time to play around with, and the way that the private server Return of Reckoning is run is, yeah, you can jump straight into the fray. You don't have to wait to get into the PvP stuff if that's what you like, because remember, this is a game that heavily focuses around PvP, and I'm a person who generally does not like PvP, yet this one felt good. But let's talk about a few other things because there's a lot to talk about still. The installation process for Return of Reckoning is actually rather simple now. Just go on the website, there will be a link in the description, and sort out your details, create an account, download and launch. And yeah, the graphics are going to be dated. Keep in mind, obviously, this is a MMO from like 2008, so it's going to have very old school vibes, but everything runs incredibly well, and it has been modernized a little bit too. So as you start off, you can start doing some quests, read over some lore, find some different locations, explore a little bit, because this map does end up becoming quite beautiful in certain places, and go through the motions if you so want. There's so many public quests too, very similar to that of repeatable world quests in World of Warcraft, but they do reset a lot faster too. You can play around with friends, join up with some guilds, and it's a pretty active community. There's also quite a bit to explore as there's 3 main theaters. You have the High Elves versus Dark Elves in Ulthuan, the Dwarfs versus Greenskins in the Badlands and the Karas Anchor, and then the Empire versus Chaos. There's also the territory of the Land of the Dead, but that's more for endgame PvP, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But yes, that means that you'll be able to explore some rather famous places like Black Crag, Altdorf, the Inevitable City, and yeah, the regions are huge. The actual capital cities are freaking massive, with Karak 8 Peaks feeling around 2 times the size, maybe even 3 times the size of Stormwind City in World of Warcraft. The main thing about this game is PvP. There's a very high PvP focus alongside normal raids and dungeons, don't you worry about that. But if you want to join in the fun, you can easily join in at level 1 and just sign up to the scenarios. That's what PvP battlegrounds are basically called here. And yeah, straight from there, it's a queuing system. You can queue up to all of them. You'll be scaled up too, so you won't just be a generic level 1. You'll be lacking your spells because you'll have to level up for that, but you'll have better stats overall, and you'll be able to start doing some damage. I have not really been a big PvP player, but let me tell you that joining up there has been quite good because, yeah, I mean, everyone I've been dealing with has just been very friendly. And the big thing here is if you're used to more modern MMOs where the UI is a bit different, you know, your character section, or maybe you want extra bars and all that, yeah, this is fully customizable. You can play around with it as much as you want, which is going to allow you to have your perfect setup, your keybinds, everything for you to just get into the fray, which is quite important because obviously people do play MMOs rather differently. They want certain things in certain locations. It depends on your own personal preferences. So having that even in a game from, what, 2008 is actually quite good. But the PvP is where it's at, realm versus realm, and even such events like the Land of the Dead, where you'll be able to see massive amounts of players. There might be a little bit of lag here as I was getting my setup going, but yeah, I've been told it can be like 200 versus 200, 300 versus 300, and sometimes more depending on the day when people just join up to really get into the fight. You'll see so many players running around, the battles get intense. I have learned that maybe while I'm decent with a chopper, it's becoming one of my favorite classes. By the way, this isn't my character. I was provided a PR account for this. My actual chopper is around rank 13 or something. He's leveling up, he's getting there. But they wanted me to see the end game stuff in all its glory, rather than just seeing it from recordings that they might show. And it's absolutely insane seeing so many characters teaming up, going out in all-out war, meeting up against the forces of order, and just really getting in there to do as much damage as possible. It is absolutely impressive, and it's amazing that the game can hold so well. I'm a long-standing player of World of Warcraft, for example, and World PvP isn't as good, if you get what I mean. I mean, just look at this, where a massive clash is happening between both forces. I'm just staying out of it, just up here. I did have a little bit of invulnerability granted to me, just so I could watch and just see this really passionate community absolutely destroy each other. It's so cool to see. I never really thought that the battles would get this big, as I never really got here when the original MMO was launched. As, yeah, I mean, that was the time of Wrath of the Lich King, and unfortunately I was a endgame raider for that, so I had to have my commitments. But seeing this so active now, and just seeing the amount of damage that can be done, the really cool amount of just warfare is impressive. People started attacking me there. I humored them a little bit. I wasn't going to kill them off though, because I mean, it would be a bit mean. It didn't matter too much that they were spending their time on me, because most of them were pushing into the destruction, and we were losing badly. Perhaps I should have joined the fray a few times. If you're more interested in stuff like PvE, yeah, you can still do that. There's dungeons and raids, for example, fighting Nakari with the old Forge World Keeper of Secrets model, which is absolutely stunning, and it breaks my heart that it's no longer on sale anymore. Thankfully, I have one hidden away in my vault. But yeah, there's so much that you can see. There's so much for you to explore. Like, for example, exploring Prague, and even going down to, I don't know, Altdorf, seeing how massive scale these cities are. Fight with your faction to take control of forts and different places of interest, and then defend them against the invading faction later on. It's one of these things that if you want to feel like you're in Warhammer, if you want to actually just see the constant warfare that this world has, yeah, this is going to be the best place to go. And if you're not a PvPer, but you're more interested in the lore on the tabletop, yeah, this is a game that you can find some inspiration for, believe me. I've actually been playing around, walking around, seeing how some troops have their armor colors and so on, and going, you know what, I'm going to take a screenshot and I'm going to paint up some units to look like this because it looks great. And one thing that I've been really liking about this is some terrain ideas, because obviously this is Warhammer Fantasy history, right? You're going into the physical locations themselves and being able to explore that. So for my tabletop armies and for my tabletop games, I'm looking at potentially recreating some of these assets to have them for my tabletop battles. Playing Return of Reckoning these past few days has been an absolute joy. They have loads of events coming up, even stuff with extra XP bonuses, so you can level up your characters a bit faster and get into the end game a lot quicker. It's great. It feels awesome, the fact that new content is still coming out, with this server and community team having the biggest bragging rights of them all, being able to have Twitch drops. I know that might not sound as the most interesting thing, but this is why. Twitch drops aren't allowed for private servers, yet they were able to come up with a understanding with both Twitch and Games Workshop themselves, who are obviously fully aware that Return of Reckoning is active and has a very bustling community of people who do love this game. And yeah, Games Workshop with a good guy here. I know. Sounds weird, doesn't it? They're allowing the server to continue their operations as long as they keep to the guidelines, which is obviously, you know, no weird microtransaction monetization practices, which is something that is kind of common with private servers. Like, there's a few infamous WoW private servers that just have microtransactions everywhere, and those could be shut down at any moment, you know? So yeah, you definitely want to check this out, especially if you're a Warhammer Fantasy fan, if you like old school MMORPGs, and the most important thing is, yeah, if you want to relive pretty much the Storm of Chaos timeline a little bit, this is pretty much that time, and there's a lot to explore. So the link will be found in the description below, so if you want to check it out, have a gander. Maybe you might see my chopper around. His name is Grot Smasher, and yeah, I intend to do a lot of PvP. To be honest, I've been quite enjoying it. It's been nice reliving pretty much my childhood, and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And finally, if you're new here, might you consider subscribing, because it doesn't really cost you anything, and it does help the channel out, you know, fight against the YouTube algorithm, get a little bit more notice, and we're getting so close to 100,000 subscribers. It'd be really cool if we could hit that this year. It looks like we might, if things keep going well, you know, so it would be kind of nice. But yeah, have a great day, guys, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.